So Bayern Munich with a nice 3-2 win over Hertha Berlin. We needed those 3 points and we got those 3 points. So that's very good from the Bavarians that we were able to grind out this game and actually get the result that we deserved and the result that we needed for this Bundesliga title race. Let's not forget Dortmund won, so they also Leipzig won. They are on our tails. Union Berlin, if they win their game, they will still be 1 point ahead of us. And going into a World Cup year, going into this intense fixture congestion, we need to be at our top form. We need to be playing at our top capabilities so that we can rest players in later matches, so that we are able to field weaker teams in the Bundesliga and not have to worry so much about the Bundesliga, because that's not the case right now. Right now, the Bundesliga we need to worry about because we are not winning it, because even this performance, it wasn't the greatest performance. We could have easily not won this game. That's why it's so important that we did win this game. But that doesn't mean I'm happy about it. It wasn't the greatest. Nagelsmann's performance recent weeks have been very good. Bayern's been flowing. Bayern's been great going forward. But this game was not that great. So my general happiness is not that high after this game because firstly, our attack was not that good. Our XG was quite low, which showed that we weren't creating that many chances. Choupo-Moting scored 2 great goals off of 2 hard chances. Musiala's chance was very straightforward, 1-on-1. But apart from that, we didn't create that much. Their keeper didn't have to make that many saves. It wasn't like their keeper had an incredible performance. We didn't create that much. Yes, we scored these 3 goals, but it wasn't a dominating offensive performance. And Bayern's game plan left our midfield and our overall game very open. So even though we would sometimes counter, they would also in turn counter us, and we would be very exposed, very open at the back, and they would have chances. Luka Bacchio would have chances. They would have through balls in behind our defense, and that's why in my player ratings video, check out the player ratings after this one. In my player ratings video, I talked about how Upamecano and Pavard actually played well despite our defending not being that good and the opposition having many chances. But it was because Upamecano and Pavard, they were able to deal with many of these long through balls, even though our overall team shape, our overall structure was very open, which left lots of spaces at the back, lots of spaces for through balls behind our fullbacks. Davies in particular had a horrendous game defensively. I mentioned this in the player ratings. But Upamecano and Pavard were very strong. They're very pacey. So I guess it enabled Nagelsmann to play this type of game with such a high line with a very open team. But still, we didn't have control over the game, and that was my problem with it. We didn't have control even when we were 3-0 up, 3-1 up. We didn't have control, and we let Hertha back into the game. Hertha are one of the worst teams in the Bundesliga. We can't be letting them back into games like this. We have to be less open than we were in this game, because we really gave Hertha so many good chances on the counter-attack, and we didn't even get that many good chances for ourselves on the counter-attack in return, so the cost-benefit of this was not very high. It wasn't worth it to have such an open structure, so that's why, because Nagelsmann, we didn't control this game, because we didn't get a cushion, we enabled them back into 3-2. Yes, it was a very weak penalty, I know, but we still enabled that. We didn't get an extra goal, and we continuously shipped chances. We allowed them to build the pressure in the last few minutes. They could have easily got a goal. They had a good penalty shout at the end. They had some chances. Neuer had a lot of work cut out for him today, and that's not where we want to be. So from this perspective, the dominating perspective, it wasn't where it should be, where it usually is for Bayern. So it wasn't an all-around great display from Bayern, and therefore Nagelsmann's rating, I'll have to give him only a 6 out of 10. The lineup was good initially. It was probably the preferred lineup. It was the lineup I expected in my lineups video. But some of the subs were a bit weird. Some of the subs, the subs weren't that weird, really. But the things that were weird was how high Bayern were pushing up, because Hertha Berlin often got threw balls through, and we were lucky Upamecano, provided they were fast, they were able to deal with them. But I could imagine them not being able to deal with them, and then Luka Bacchio just being one-on-one multiple times. I could imagine that, even though maybe it didn't necessarily happen. But also our midfield was overexposed, and our attack was overexposed. The pressing wasn't quite there, which meant that Hertha could just cut through us. And they had control over the game, because this was the tactic. This is the Bayern Munich shape in the first half, in possession, and we can analyze this closely. So you see that it is really like a back four, but it's a bit asymmetrical. So on the left-hand side, Mane is wide, but he's not fully wide. That means Davies was still overlapping quite a lot. Davies was coming inside a lot, but he was also on the overlap quite a lot. But on the right-hand side, you can see that Gnabry really was providing that width on the right-hand side. And that meant Mazraoui was tucked inside, sort of as a centre mid, central defensive midfielder. He was really on the inside, Gnabry on the outside. So Mazraoui wouldn't overlap. Mazraoui would be on the inside, and that's where his dribbling, his passing prowess came into play, and he was able to keep possession. I mentioned this in the player ratings, but he is really good at this, and it's added another dimension to our play, where you have Mazraoui really on the inside, and then the right winger, which was Gnabry in this case, providing width. And that's why we also see Musiala on that right-hand side more than just as a straight cam. And this is also like similar ideas that we saw last season with Thomas Muller and Choupo-Moting and Lewandowski. Lewandowski would be up front where Choupo-Moting was in this case. But Thomas Muller would be slightly to the right, because sometimes in our pressing it would be like a 4-2-4 formation, not a Musiala in behind Choupo-Moting, but Choupo-Moting and Musiala pressing together like this, like Choupo-Moting and then Musiala as a front two. And we saw that with Lewandowski and Muller last season. So this game was kind of a return to those tactics. And that's why Musiala was playing like as a right striker at times. And also, because Gnabry was so far wide, there was that space in that right area, which allowed for Musiala to play in that area. And that also meant that the central attacking midfield position wasn't totally occupied by Musiala, because Musiala was more in the right half space. And that's why Goretzka, you see here, is pushed further up than Kimmich, and he is in that left area, because Goretzka could exploit that space with his late runs. But my problem with this today was it left us overexposed. As Goretzka was going so far forward, Hertha often beat us on the counter-attack. Hertha often exploited the spaces in Bayern Munich's team. And overall, it was just too open. The pressing wasn't right there. Choupo-Moting was the striker, and they were pressing the front four. But once they were beaten, and Goretzka was beaten, then it's just Kimmich in the defence, and that leaves us overexposed. So overall, I'm happy we got the win. We move on to the next one, but it wasn't the prettiest win. Bayern's team, Nagelsmann's tactics did leave us a bit overexposed. We lost control over this game, so I'll be looking forward to the next ones and see you there.